You're invited to the party, celebrating 50 years of unprecedented success in the country music industry. Bill Anderson has written more songs and had more songs recorded than any other country music writer in history, and that's something to celebrate. So we invited all of his friends, cooked us up a big old cake, and tried to do this celebration right. Hosted by Vince Gill, this collection features many of Bill's biggest hits, so we're glad you chose to attend this bash. For one of country music's true legends, welcome to Bill Anderson's 50th anniversary celebration.
We just had Don sing a great Saginaw, Michigan song, and we were talking a little bit about Lefty Frizzell, and I got to talking to Jean Shepard over there, and she's got a pretty good history with old Lefty. And I think she
You
had
want
a
me to
story
tell it now?
Yeah. You wanted
Lefty
to-
and his manager had been playing several dates around the country, and every night Lefty was drunk and they didn't get paid. So about the fourth or fifth night, his manager told him, said, Lefty, you've got to stay sober tonight because we need to get paid. Well, they was working his manager's hometown, so he went down and got his mother to come in and babysit Lefty. She said never had a drink in her life. Set him in back in this little, you know what's coming, don't you? Set him back in this little room where the Coca-Cola's set and everything. Said he went back there to tell Lefty it's time to go, and said Lefty and his mother both was drunk.
Now, is that the guy who was listed on all of Lefty's hits as co-writer?
No,
That's not the same one?
we all know this guy real well.
I worked with Lefty in North Texas through Wichita Falls area. I did get paid. But he was still drunk.
It
I
wasn't
got paid. I always got my money.
He was raising a family. He made sure he got
I
paid.
had to get
Mo Bandy, what's going on, buddy?
Oh, we were speaking of Lefty. You know, I years ago got a call one night in the middle of the night, and it was Lefty and Whitey Schaefer, and they wrote a song called "Bandy the Rodeo Clown" for me. Wow. So, and Lefty, the last time I talked to Lefty on the phone, he said, "My boy, you're going to be a star."
Gene, did you used to work the road a bunch with Lefty?
Yeah,
you work the road?
we was in with Ernest Tubb when they had the bad bus wreck over in North Carolina, and Lefty was, well, he had been nipping a little bit.
And driving?
No, not driving. We was in Ernest Tubb's bus, and Hank Jr. and Ernest was in the back playing poker, and Lefty was sitting up there trying to sleep. But we hit this guy, and I'm sorry to say, killed a young man. He come down a exit
The wrong way?
and turned into us.
Wow.
But Lefty jumped up and he says, "Christ, what happened?" He didn't know we'd hit a guy. He was just completely oblivious to it. But I loved him. I love Lefty Frizzell.
When Slippin' Around,
That's not the title.
I know. This is called a segue.
I know one called Slippin' Around.
No, what I was going to ask is I heard Bill talk earlier about you guys doing Dear John.
Yeah.
And was that before you did it with
After. Everything
Furlan.
was after Furlan Husky.
everything was after Furlan?
Yeah.
And
I thought you meant, since we always have to slip around. I know that one too.
Oh, okay.
Let me tell you about the first time I met Whispering Bill.
Please do. Save my butt.
It was. Well, I think I saved his this night. It was in Georgia. He was a disc jockey. And me and Ernest Tubb, Hawkshaw, and I think the Wilburn brothers played down there. And he come up and said, "I'd like to do an interview with you." He says, "I've never done an interview before." I said, "Oh, it's okay. No problem." He talked for 40 minutes. On and on and on. I thought, golly, when's he going to quit talking? Finally, I looked at him and I said, "Bill, I better let you go so you can interview some other artists." He said, "I don't know what you've done if you hadn't have got me out of that." First time.
You were very kind. I remember that. I was so thrilled to be talking to you. And I was just so new at it that, golly, I'm talking to Gene Shepard, so I didn't know when to quit. So I just kept asking questions. But you were that was the nicest I've ever been cut off in my life.
It was
And I've
my
been cut
pleasure,
off
Bill.
a few times.
Would you sing a little bit of that great Bill Anderson song?
Yes.
Pretty
I-
please?
They wanted to put this thing down in my pocket, and I said, there ain't enough room down in my pocket with these tight britches on.
All
They
my
look
Brit-
cute, Gene. Yeah, I like that. Woo-hoo.
I'm losing weight. I think I found it all.
I found it.
I'm going to get over here by Jimmy Capps, and I'm going to make sure that he knows this song. Second time around, Jim, your last chance. Okay. Monday's promise is Tuesday's lie. Saturday's party is Sunday's fight. Something's wrong with you and I. Love gone wrong that used to be right. And I can feel it slipping away. Slowly, slowly slipping away. It'll be gone in a few more days if we don't stop this love of ours from slipping away. Wednesday's kisses or Thursday's frowns. We can't live 2 days in a row when our world's not upside down. Here we stand watching it go, and I can feel it slipping away. Slowly, slowly slipping away. It'll be gone in a few more days if we don't stop this love of ours from slipping away. Yeah. Roses are red, violets are blue. Sugar's sweet some of the time. This puzzle's missing a piece or two. We've got the grapes, but never the wine. And I can feel it slipping away. Slowly, slowly slipping away. It'll be gone in a few more days if we don't stop this love of ours from slipping away. Clap your hands. I can feel it slipping away. Slowly, slowly slipping away. It'll be gone in a few more days if we don't stop this love of ours from slipping away. If we don't stop this love of ours from slipping away. God bless you. Thank you.
Hey, Gene Shepard,
I look for it. What?
can I ask you a question?
Yes.
The purpose of your hand?
To give funny signals with.
Well, I understand. I got a funny one. I knew what a one chord was, but I was curious. Is it?
I'm thumbing
is it,
helicopters.
No. Is it nervous or is it tempo?
No, it's
neither.
It's tempo.
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 Yeah, that was
always
slow,
done it.
guys.
Yeah.
Always.
Larry knows.
Yeah. He's always done that.
I've always done it.
Yeah.
Signature.
Hey, I would like to add that Gene is going to be inducted into the Oklahoma Music Hall of Fame.
You have pushed for this and pushed for this, and I appreciate it.
Well, you bet. You deserve it.
Ain't nothing like an Okie, is there?
We got to stick together. Cap's good job on the intro there. You made.
Thanks, Caps. You got it right that time.
You know, Con Hunley's with us today. Con's one of the best singers ever. You know, great singer, and he's agreed to come and sing one of your biggest hits. Still, I think is probably one of the best of the best that you've ever penned.
Thank you. Well, if people don't know any other Bill Anderson song or record, that's usually the one that they do know. I appreciate Con Hunley so much, and not only is he's a great singer, but what a neat guy. He wanted to do Still, but he wanted to do it different.
Sure.
And he was afraid that he might hurt my feelings, which was totally wrong. An artist should be a true. It's like anybody can trace a picture, but it takes an artist to really paint one. And he had a vision for this song that was not the same as my vision, which it shouldn't have been. It was his vision. And he cut one of the best records on this song. But I appreciate the fact that you came to me. He came over to my house one morning, and it was a way to get a free breakfast, wasn't it?
Well, that was one reason.
And we talked about the song. It was so cool the way you did it. Thank you.
Well, at the time, you and I, first and foremost, let me say that I'm humbled and privileged to be in the presence of such country music history. It's great to be here with you guys, and especially to be here for you, Bill. But at the time, we shared the same publicist, Betty Hofer, and I'd gotten acquainted with Bill many years earlier. And anyway, I'd been down recording in Nashville and in the studio with Nora and a bunch of the guys, and I was driving home, and I'd listened to my stuff about all I could take, and then I started listening to the radio, and when I got up on top of the plateau up there around Crossville, I'd cut everything off, and I was just enjoying the wind, and whistling in the windows, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, I started singing Still, and it wasn't quite like Bill's version, but I've sung it all the way home, and kind of worked up my own arrangement of it. I got home and sat down at the piano, and worked up an arrangement, and then I called Betty, and I said, this song's all over me. I've got to cut it. And so I said, I really, it's such an iconic song. I would love to have Bill's permission to do my version of it. I don't want to do anything. Little did I know at the time that James Brown had cut it. But anyway, I said I'd kind of like to run it by him and see if he's okay with it. And so I came back to Nashville after a few days, and we went out to his house, and he said, I talked to him on the phone, and he said, well, let me hear what you've done to my song. So anyway, I sat down at the piano, and I played a little of it, and I didn't even get halfway finished with it. He said, I'll drive you to the studio right now. He said, go ahead and cut it. You've got my permission. So it's such an iconic song, and it means a lot to me. And so here you go. Though you broke my heart, still, though we're far apart, girl, I love you, I love you still. After all this time, still, you're still on my mind. Oh, I love still. I've lost count. I've lost track of the days. I've lost almost everything since you went away. And I don't know who you're with. I don't know where you've gone. I just hope someday that you will hear this song. You're still on my mind. Oh, I love you still. This love is like an eternal flame. Every day it burns hotter. It burns right through the pain. And my friends all say I'm crazy. And girl, I just might be. But I'll carry this old torch till you come back to me. Steve, though you broke my heart, Steve, though we're far apart, oh, I love you, Steve. Girl, don't you know that I love you, Steve. Thank you all. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Kind of rewrote a little bit of it, but it's okay, Bill. Thank y'all so much.
That's the way I meant to write it.
Oh, but you know, Bill, that's what's wonderful about your
And you
song.
sang it pretty darn well.
The
too.
interpretation
I
can go
appreciate that a lot.
in any direction, really. Just like this R&B, blues, you know, and you've got other ones, The Corner of My Life. Remember that song? That it could be done pop. That's what I love about your writing.
Yeah, you can do a great song any way you want.
Yeah.
Any way you want.
Yeah.
You know? They'll stand up no matter what
That's
kind
right.
of time frame you want to put it in. And, you know, hearing a great traditional country song, you know, that was its intention and its birth and all that. But hearing it in a soulful way is a different way. It took Ray Charles to teach us
Yeah.
how much soul was in
You're
country
right.
music.
Yeah.
You know, he took so many great songs and made these great records with soulful arrangements. And unlike anybody would have ever expected to hear a Don Gibson song or a Hank Williams song or any of that thing. And that's what it takes. That's what creativity is all about interpretation and different ways to do it. And that's once again testament to great songs. You know?
Somebody needs to check his DNA.
Not going to say much to that.
Yeah.
That's what Charlie Brown told me one day. He said, "You sound like one of the other boys." But no, it is a great song, and I just appreciate the opportunity to go in and talk to Bill about it and everything and be able to kind of put my feelings and touch on the song. It's a fabulous song, and I love you, Bill. Thank you so
Love you,
kindly.
Con. Thank you, man. Great job.
The other thing about someone taking a song like that and making it so different is what Ray did was the same thing. He brought a whole new audience to country music that did not exist. All of a sudden, people go, "Hey, these are country songs? These are great," you know. And I think that anytime anybody from outside our world enters in to do something, you know, it's pretty remarkable what can happen. I remember Elvis Costello came out to play the Opry one time, and he's a really good pal of mine, and somebody was grousing a little bit about him being on our stage and this and that, and I said, "I'm going to tell you something." I said, "He knows more about our music than I'll bet you do."
That's probably true.
And
he cut a great record. You remember the old song that Charlie and Ira did of mine called "Must You Throw Dirt in My Face"? The last person in the world that you'd ever think of singing that song would be Elvis Costello.
Exactly
But
right.
he recorded it, and he made it his own. And I was thrilled with that. Really
And I
proud.
think anybody outside of our genre that looks in, what they're looking for is the most honest and the most authentic thing that we can produce. I think oftentimes we have run from what we are. We always we want to be this, we want to be that. I go, why don't you want to be what this is, man? Because what this is as good as it gets.
Vince, you can flip that coin too. Think of all the songs that Chuck Berry wrote that have been recorded by country artists.
Amen. You know, once again, the testament to a great song. You know, you can do it any way you want.
Well, I still think "Still" is one of the greatest songs I've ever heard.
No question.
I mean, I can hear it. I can hear it on the radio right now, and it just reminds me all over again what a great record that is.
Owen Bradley, I'll give him so much credit for that record because he worked so hard to get that little sound of the Anita Kerr singers who did the "Still." You know, I'm talking about my record, the original record, and he worked so hard to do that, and he put a couple of those little passing chords and things in there that just really went so far towards making that what it was. I've always thought the song was just pretty vanilla, you know, but
It still tears my heart out. The recitation, when that record was out, I was in the recitations myself. I had out a record way back in 62, 3, somewhere, called "Shame on Me for Hurting." And it had a long recitation in it. And when I finally got around to where I met Bill, I said, "Bill," I said, "you know, you and I are the only two people I've ever met who talked their way into the top 5 pop charts and sang her way out."
I believe George Hamilton had a comment.
First time I met Chuck Berry, 1959, I was going to Australia to do a tour with Chuck Berry and Bobby Darin. And it was before the jets. It was a propeller thing. And I was sitting back in the coach, and I heard the Louvin brothers coming from first class. Kind of ironic. I was in the back of the bus, and he was in the front of it, you know. And I heard the Louvin brothers coming, and so I asked the stewardess, I said, "I'm hearing country music coming from first class." And she said, "Yeah, Chuck Berry's up there." And I said, "Can I go up there for a minute and speak to him?" And he was stretched out. He had the seat leaning back like that, Charlie, and had the seat in front of him forward. And he had a little battery-operated record player, and he was playing the Tragic Songs of Life, an album by the Louvin brothers. And I said, "Mr. Berry?" And he said, "Yeah." I said, "My name is George Hamilton IV." He said, "Oh, yeah, you're going to Australia with me." I said, "Yes, sir." I said, "Could I ask you a question?" He said, "Sure." I said, "I'm surprised to hear Chuck Berry listening to country music." He said, "Why is that?" I said, "Well, I just never pictured you being a Louvin brothers fan." He said, "Did you ever listen to Johnny B. Good?" And I said, "Yes, sir." And he said, "That's a country song."
It's true.
Wow. Chuck Berry asked me on 2 different occasions if I could get him on the Grand Ole Opry.
Yeah.
I never could, but
I got his autograph one time when I was living in Los Angeles, and we were at the same agency, and I was excited. I was a young guitar player, and I loved Chuck Berry and loved all his songs. And I got the only thing I had to sign was my parking receipt ticket. So I had Chuck Berry's autograph. Man, I was fired up. And I was only in the office for about an hour, so my parking bill was going to be about 75 cents or $1 or whatever. So I went to pay the man, and he says, and I said, "Can I keep the ticket because I got Chuck Berry's autograph?" He goes, "It'll cost you $36. He says, "Because that's the maximum. I can't let you have the receipt." I said, "But man, I got Chuck Berry's autograph." And he goes, "It's going to cost you $36. And I said, "Well, you just bought a Chuck Berry autograph." I didn't have $36. But that's, you know, once again, we talk about great songs. And in the room, Larry Butler, great record producer. Also, Buddy Cannon is here. Another, you know, when people talk about Buddy Cannon, he's produced a lot of records over the years, and most notably recently, all the Kenny Chesney stuff. And when Buddy's name comes up, everybody to a man says, he's a great song guy.
Yeah.
Buddy is a great song guy. And we're so thrilled to have you with us, Buddy, and thanks for being here.
Yeah, thanks. Everybody's been talking about all these great Bill Anderson songs. There is another song though, that Bill Anderson song.
Yeah, you do.
A few years ago, when Bill and I were first getting to know each other, he invited me down. He was playing a gig down in around Orlando somewhere, and he invited me to come down and take in some spring training baseball games, which I had never been to a spring training game, so I jumped at the chance. And in 2 days, I think we might have seen 5 games. So we were going to morning game, then driving somewhere else to an afternoon game. And I don't remember which day it was, but we were in between games. I was driving, and we were just shooting the breeze, you know, talking about great songs that we loved and all that. And, you know, I happened to think of another song. I said, you know what, that's something I never could understand. I said, I remember a song that Roy Drusky had one time, and I said, what in the world would ever make anybody write a song called Peel Me a Nanner? And he said, I wrote that one. And then he started laughing, so I knew I hadn't made him mad.
You really didn't know I had written it?
No, I had no idea. But
I think you went on and said it was probably the worst song you'd ever heard.
I might have said that.
And you're right.
But I have since heard one worse, so it's no longer that. No, it's not. It's just a sign that it's a hit because I remembered it, you know, and it had been, what, 25, 30
Early
years.
60s,
yeah. But I would like to torture you with my version of that song if I could.
Awesome.
Oh, boy.
Actually, I'm the only guy with guts enough to sing it, I think.
You might be the only one that knows it.
Yeah, the only one that remembers
Do
it.
you?
All right.
Get the harmony.
There I was in all my innocence, loving you with all of my might. Come to find out I didn't have any sense. You had a different darling every night. Peel me a nanner, toss me a peanut, I'll come swinging from a coconut tree. Peel me a nanner, toss me a peanut, you sure made a monkey out of me. I gave you kisses, I gave you loving, tried to please your every whim. It all added up to a big bad nothing. Last night you up and ran away with him. Peel me a nanner, toss me a peanut, I'll come swinging from a coconut tree. Peel me a nanner, toss me a peanut, you sure made a monkey out of me. Peel me a nanner, toss me a peanut, I'll come swinging from a coconut tree. Peel me a nanner, toss me a peanut, you sure made a monkey out of me.
Hey, Vince, I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Bill could tell you just about a little bit about every song that he's written, where it come from, and how I'm anxious to find out where that one came from.
You know something? This will probably really strike you funny. It took me longer to write that song, I think, than any song I ever wrote. I had the chorus for about 3 years. I ran around with that, peel me a nanner and toss me a peel. I had that in my head for 3 years, and I could not figure out how to put a verse with it. I mean, the chorus was so ridiculous, and the verse, you had to write something that was a little bit off the wall, and one day I'm just driving the car after about 3 years, and it hit me. And that's one of my favorite rhymes I ever wrote, the opening line of that song. There I was in all of my innocence, loving you with all of my might. Come to find I didn't have any sense. I rhymed any sense with innocence. I said, that's bad enough to go with that chorus. I'll stick with it.
Bill, we was over in Branson with the Grand Ladies, and Helen Cornelius was with us. We got a request for that written out one night. Would y'all please sing Peel Me a Nanner? She said, Peel Me a Nanner?
Yeah.
And I said, yeah, it's a song. Roy Drusky recorded it. She said, I never heard such. So I proceeded to sing it for her, and she said, oh, my God.
Speaking of that, I want to tell a story. You cut another song of mine not long after Slippin Away. You cut a song I wrote called At the Time.
Yep.
Which had the lines in there about...
At the time, I didn't know your name, and I'd never seen your face. If you've never had a T-bone steak, saltine crackers taste just fine.
Yeah, and if you've never been to Paris, France, Big Spring, Texas, will suit you fine. Crazy thing. One night, that record is out, and it's doing pretty good. I know what you're going. But it's got those kind of off-the-wall lyrics in it. Do you remember when Johnny Carson used to do the thing about stump the band, and he'd go out in the audience? He was out in the audience with his microphone, and some guy said, I've got a song. And Johnny gave him the microphone, and he started singing At the Time about if you've never had filet mignon, peanut butter will suit you fine or something. He sang about 3 or 4 lines, and Johnny Carson stopped. He said, wait, I've been doing this for a long time. That is the worst song I have ever heard in my life.
I can hear the original record.
So he thought that was even worse than Peel Me a Nanner, I guess.
Well, what's the worst song that you ever wrote?
One of those two, probably. Oh, Lord, you don't want to know.
Well, you know, everybody in here, I got a feeling, everybody in here has had one of the greatest hits, but they've also had one that they would not record again if they had the chance to.
Oh, yeah.
But,
yeah. I'd have to think about that. But there are some. Peel Me a Nanner is the one I've taken a lot of kidding about. And, you know, I've taken a lot of kidding over the years about Walk Out Backwards. Every time you see these lists, people make these lists of terrible country song titles. Walk Out Backwards, and I'll think you're walking in is always on there.
It's a great song.
Well, thank you. But, not everybody understands the way we write country songs sometimes.
Once I was talking about Peel Me a Nanner. One time I was asked, a few years ago, I was asked to come out and speak to the group of volunteers at the Nashville Zoo. And so I said, okay, I can speak, just to a group of them and say hello and everything. And I got out there, and there was a little band there, like 3 pieces or something, and they wanted me to sing. And I said, what can I sing that would apply to the zoo? And then it dawned on me, and I sang Peel Me a Nanner.
What did the monkeys do?
I got around to them later, Yeah, the monkeys and the elephants. And you were talking about great songs have other people can take it and make it their own. Harlan wrote, he was having quite a bit of success when we first moved here to Nashville and everything, and went on, of course. But the first 2 songs went into going pop. He said, I want to write one that can't go pop. I want to write a strict country song. And he wrote Busted, which all of a sudden was #1 rhythm and blues, pop, rock and roll, whatever, and Ray Charles.
He just couldn't get a break, could he?
Couldn't get a break. You can't categorize a great song.
Oh, I love it.
I've got a Bill Anderson story that very few people's ever heard.
Let's have it, Mr. Charles Leuven.
When he first joined the Grand Ole Opry, right along about the first, He wrote and recorded Mama Sing a Song, which I thought is a good song. He sang it one night on the Opry. For some reason, the Louvin brothers was either next or was right in front of him. We were backstage when Bill came off of the stage. And he came around and he took an encore that night on Mama Sang a Song. And he came around the back of the stage and Ari was standing there. Bill was still singing Mama Sang a Song. And Ari said to Bill, well, she must have not been too damn hot because she never was on the Opry. Bill had the muscles and the size. He could have smoothed Ari out right there on the stage. But he didn't. He just looked at Ari and felt pity for him.
No, I did not. I mean, I was still in such awe of you guys. I mean, always was and will be. And I didn't know how to react to it. You know, I thought he was kidding. I hoped he, but you know, I didn't know exactly how to react to it. But I remember him saying that. Looking back on it now,
if you said something clever, he had to try to smooth it out so people wouldn't think it was a clever statement you made.
He was a genius in his own way.
Well, he did a lot of recitations himself.
Yes.
Ari was as good at recitations as Hank Snow or the gentleman from California who recorded This Old House.
Stuart Hammond.
He was very good.
Yes, he was.
A lot of people are good at that. I'm not worth the flip at it. Ari was so good that I won't even try anything. I don't like the way I sound speaking. So I'll just stick with the singing. And speaking of singing, I've recorded probably more songs than very few people in this room that Bill Anderson wrote. He started my career as a solo artist in 1963. And since then, I suppose I've cut a dozen
Thank you.
Bill Anderson songs.
Well, I Don't Love You Anymore was the one. And then you had such a great record on Think I'll Go Somewhere and Cry Myself to Sleep.
By the
Thank
way,
you.
the best song, the cleverest song you ever sang or wrote was Sweet Texas. Nobody's picked up on that song. Capitol Records is going to release that song, and I was going to get to sing at Houston or wherever they have the bowl at. And the song says, the Cowboys are playing the Redskins on Sunday. Somebody saved me a seat. Bill was in New York in snow knee-deep and wondered what he was doing in New York in the snow when the weather was so nice in Texas. So he was really wanting to go to Texas and play Ernest Tubb on the jukebox and drink some of that Lone Star beer in Texas. Great songs.
Thank you.
Thank
Well,
you.
Charlie, I know all of us know and love and care about you and know you've been really struggling with your health. And as a group, I think we'd be remiss if we didn't just say thank you for all your contributions and some of the greatest records ever made.
I might add to that, Vince, in late June, I I was pronounced with pancreatic cancer. They tell me that's the meanest kind.
That's what got my daddy.
And so I was really down for 30 or 40 days. I didn't have a bite of anything solid, just liquid. And I lost from 158 pounds to 110 pounds. And now it's for some good reason, or no reason at all, I have been able to start for the last 7 days eating solid food, and I've gained 3 or 4 pounds of weight. So I want to say I appreciate the prayers of as many as 20 million people. And surely somebody must have had a direct line, because my cancer might be completely gone. Miracles are still happening.
Yes, sir.
Bill, I have a word I want to pass on to you. Besides your great gift, you've probably been one of the most professional men that's ever been in this business. You took care of business. You lived a clean life, and you took care of your business, and your longevity has been that of just a young person. You still have the energy of a young man. And I say that because a lot of us didn't take care of ourselves or our business. We were talking about a few people earlier, and I was kind of in that crowd. But I have great admiration for you because of that. You've stuck with it. You've not only been a great talent, but you've been a great man as well, and I mean that from all my heart.
Coming from Dallas Frazier, one of the greatest people that ever put a pen to a piece of paper writing a song, man, thank you. That means more to me than you know. I'm honored that you're among this group that came here today. Thank you.
Thank you.
You sure didn't have to come here to sing a Bill Anderson song. You got plenty of your own.
I'm privileged to be here. Thank you.
You know who else is here today is Roy Clark.
Yes.
And
I'm sorry? No, I couldn't.
He says he thinks
talking to me?
No, he's talking about you.
I just was saying that you came today.
I'm sorry. Do you have a microphone? I know I've already missed a lot of great stuff. Would you repeat the question? No, there was a couple of things going through my mind. What did you say to lead me into this?
I just told Bill you were here, and
yeah, I spoke to him earlier.
Are you sitting at the same table with Gene Seeley? I mean, Gene.
Now
Shepard?
I can hear you. Somebody turn the knob up.
This was an attempt at another segue. I'm learning.
And I didn't help you at all, did I? There's a couple of things I'd like to get out of the way. First of all, to Charlie Louvin. We were down at Shot Jackson's one night, and I said, you know, one of my dreams would be to sing with Charlie, sing one of the old Louvin Brothers songs, and me do the harmony. Well, he looked at me just as stern as he could, and he said, you can't do it. I said, well, I've been known to sing a little harmony in the past. And so he said, all right, let's try it. He said, when I stop dreaming. Went down on it like that. I did the second line, and he stopped and he said, right there, you're wrong. I said, what's wrong about it? He says, sometimes the lead becomes the harmony. That's what makes them so unique. Yeah. And it was, but I gave it an earnest try. Now, you were talking about I'm sure, our association, and a great song that turned my life around called The Tips of My Fingers. And what I learned today from Con Hunley is that maybe I'll go in and re-record it and call it, you know, you had my love on the tips of your fingers. It's in there somewhere. But the history of the song, Tips of My Fingers and myself, go through Joe Allison. God bless him. He come to me one time. I had signed with Capitol Records as an instrumentalist because Ken Nelson said they had, excuse me, they had so many singers that they couldn't find records for, or hit records, that if he went back and told them he'd signed another singer, he'd be in trouble. So him and Ken Nelson and Joe Allison got together, and because of the success of the first album, instrumental album, there was a little money that Ken could justify us going in and recording a single session. So Joe came to me and he said, I want you to hear something. And he played your record of Tips of My Fingers. Now Joe said, I have an idea that we can do this song again and change it a little and make it a big production. So and he got the okay from Ken Nelson. So the day that we were going to record, we were standing in the big studio, I think Studio A, at the Capitol Tower in California. And we were standing with Ken Nelson and Joe Allison. Well, Joe had told Hank Levine, now when you get ready and everybody gets tuned up, no false starts or anything, just take it from the top and go right through it. So we're standing there talking, and these musicians started coming in. I think there was 40 violinists, a half a dozen or more singers, a full orchestra. And Ken, as we were talking, kept looking over his shoulder. Finally, he said, I thought we were in Studio A today. And Joe said, we are. Ken said, you just cost me my job. There's no way I can justify this. So when they finally, the musicians got set and took it from the top, Ken come walking out, and he said, I was scared to death. He said, but relax, it's a hit. And it was. Bless your heart. If I can have a sip of water, there was a time in my past that I could have done my own. Wow. Singing in front of the maestro. You'll notice that I have taken the liberty on some of the high notes, but you know I could do it in my prime. I reached out my arms and I touched you with soft words. I whispered your name. I had your love on the tips of my fingers, but that was as close as I came. My eyes had a vision of sweet lips touching beneath my command. I had your love on the tips of my fingers, but I let it slip right through my hands. But I let it slip right through my hands. Somebody took you when I wasn't looking, and I should have known from the start. Then it's a long, long way from the tips of my fingers to the love hidden deep in your heart, to the love hidden deep in your heart. I had you right on the tips of my fingers, but I let you slip right through my hands. Yes, I let you slip right through my hands.
Can't beat that with a stick.
I was only part of what? To this date, there's been how many recordings of the tips of my fingers?
I don't know. It's been a hit 5 different times in the United States. Can I share with y'all one of the greatest lines? Roy Clark said one of the funniest things I ever heard a human being say. You cut that about 1963.
I think you hit it on the head. Yeah.
Okay, Steve Wariner did it virtually 30 years later.
Right.
And I'm sure over the years you had a lot of other hit songs, and you know, as time goes by, you start performing different songs in your stage show. Right. Steve Wonder's record is like #1. Steve and I are standing backstage at the Opry, and Roy comes in. He comes walking down the hall, and he never looks, he never says hello to me, he never says hello to Steve. He walks right between us, and he gets to us, he says, I put it back in the act.
I had to.
That was a great line, man.
Word got out that I had done it. I had to put it back.
You know, another thing, when I cut it the first time, and the way I wrote it, it was the tip of my fingers. And Roy cut it as tips, and it kind of became a debate about
Joe Allison, I think he had studied something in college or something about proper this, that, or the other. And you and he had a conversation. I won't say an argument, but a conversation.
No, he was right.
Was proper. Was it tips of my fingers or tip of my fingers? And
well, I think tips is really correct. I'll tell you another funny little story. One time...
He finally got in, Joe. He gave up.
One time, because Gene Shepard had a good record on
Great
tips.
record on it.
One time, when Steve Wariner was producing an album on me, on Warner Brothers, we got myself and you and Eddie Arnold and Gene and Steve, the 5 of us that had cut it, we all got in the studio together. Steve worked up this incredible arrangement with all the modulations and everything, and we cut it together. But here was what was so wonderful, it was outstanding to me. I sang the first part. I had long since decided it was tips of my fingers, so I sang tips. You came in, you sang tips. Eddie was next, he sang the tip of my finger.
Oh, very proper.
He was not going to change for any of us. And I thought that was so cool and spoke volumes about Eddie Arnold.
You did.
That was the way he did it, and that was the way it was going to be.
It should have been compilation.
Was I proud to be
record
part of
the
that
year.
group?
I was too, Roy. What, Gene?
It should have been compilation record of the year.
Yeah.
Thank
With
you.
all of
Y'all
us.
did a wonderful job on it. You really did. I'm
I told
so
Steve,
proud
I said,
of
I
that.
can't change there. Me and him were the only ones singing the same key.
That's right, you did.
All the rest of you turkeys sang in a different key.
Thank
It was
you,
a great
Roy.
record.
Bless your heart. Thank you.
Thank you, Roy.
I want to say one other thing, if I may, and out of total respect. This is the first country band I've heard in years. And what a pleasure it is to watch this talent without a whole lot of things added to it. Pure music.
They're good.
Thank you again.
Hey, Roy, I have a question for you. Over here, Vinny.
Roy.
I'm sorry, what
I wanted to ask you how the transition was for you. I know you probably always were a singer, but you were also mostly known as a guitarist, as an instrumentalist. What was it, this song that was that turned you into the singer?
You know, I never really thought about it, but now that you bring it up, I'm sure that it did. It proved to me, I never was thinking that I need any proof, but it did prove to me that they would accept me as a singer. I could have a successful record. And that did add to a whole lot of recordings vocally through the years. I never thought of that, Vince.
Yeah,
That's great.
I just brought the question up. I just brought the question up because there are not a lot of musicians, really, you know, gifted musicians, singers, and I kind of wanted to ask that for my own benefit.
Oh,
just
bless your
because,
heart. Thank you.
Well, I mean, I felt like my only way to really have a chance was to sing. I didn't think anybody was going to ever notice me so much as a musician.
Really?
Seriously, you know what I mean, though. To really have a chance to make a mark, I knew that would have to be as a singer. And as the musician that I was, I still, you know, the majority of the time I focused on singing the pretty songs and writing the pretty songs and pointing towards that, realizing that everybody would soon find out I could play. I remember coming to see you play as a little boy, and my dad never stopped talking about it till he dropped dead, was you played with your big toe. You took your shoe off and you started playing with your big toe, and that fractured him for the rest of his life.
Bless his heart. That just proves I would do anything it took to get through a show. And I really did. You know, it's... in fact, comedy was another thing that helped me get into doing vocals and instrumentals, because I wanted to always be the first one to laugh at me. If I was going to do something and somebody walked up and said, "Are you serious?" I could say, "No, are you kidding me? I'm not serious. This is not what I do."
Those expressions sold it, though.
The expressions.
Yeah, the expressions.
Even a big toe and an expression, whatever it takes.
Yeah.
Well, you're one of the most beloved men that's ever...
Well, Lord.
Thank you. Hey, Mr. Roy.
Yes, sir.
I want to know how you transitioned into being Cousin Roy on the Hillbillies.
How I did what with him?
How you started being Cousin Roy on the Beverly Hillbillies.
Well, if you remember that series, I did 3 of those shows that I became my own mother on there. And I was sitting, at the time I smoked cigarettes, and I was sitting in the dressing room by myself in this get-up of an old lady. And I looked in the mirror at myself, this sweet little old lady with a cigarette, and I took it and put it out, and I didn't smoke for a week. Yeah, little old ladies don't smoke.
I think that's a whole big part of your gift is how you turned up on the screen. People were drawn to you and taken with you, and you always did it well.
Well, bless your heart. I grew up in television. I felt, and still do, feel very comfortable with it. I don't look at a camera as a piece of equipment. I look at it as a person. So I play to that person. And television has been very good to me.
Sure.
And I've sometimes wondered if I had been in a different era, like later on when television was so established, would I have had the success that I did through the years. George and I go back to when I played on his first network television show out of Washington. And so anybody that would let me on, I was the first one there. Except with Jimmy Dean. I was too late a couple times with Jimmy, and it cost me a job. But we never had a crossword. And I do want to clarify that. That's one of the second questions that I'm asked on any kind of an interview. They say, "Is it true that Jimmy Dean fired you?" I said, "Yeah, but he put up with me a lot longer than anyone else would have." And 8 o'clock to him meant 8 o'clock. It didn't mean 8:05 or 8:10. With me, anywhere in that vicinity was close enough. And finally, he, after he let me go, well, I have to, if I may.
You get the mic.
About 2 weeks, yes, I did. 2 weeks after he let me go, I was riding my motorcycle, which is what caused me to lose my job. And I realized that he was playing in this club that we had played when I was with him. So I pulled up at the front door. I was going to go in and just listen to him. And Jimmy at that time was playing accordion. And just as I pulled up to the front door, this guy come walking out. And it sort of startled him. He said, "Why don't you just ride it on in?" I said, "If there was someone to hold the door open." Well, he just stood back like Sir Walter Raleigh and called my bluff, and I goosed it, and then I went right up to the bar. Well, I knew the guy that owned the place, and everybody got a kick out of it, except some of the ladies that were dressed in their finery. And I had an old raggedy motorcycle, and it was just spurting blood everywhere. And, I mean, not blood, oil. If I'd have stayed, it would have been blood. But when Jimmy saw who it was, he dropped at one end of the accordion. And I looked, and he was trying to get it back by pulling on those bellows. And the guy said, that owned the place, he said, "Roy, I don't mind you being in here, but it is against the law. And by now, word has got out that you are inside this establishment on a motorcycle. If I was you, I'd leave." And I said, "I believe you're right." So I cranked it up, cranked his spark back, and oil just all over these ladies. And away I went. And here I am today. Thank you for putting that in there.
There's a fella here that I think is one of the greatest song interpreters that we've ever had as a singer. And I think it's interesting. I think it takes both. You know, it takes someone to come up with a song. It takes for a great band to be able to play the song, great producer to make a great record. But it also takes a great singer to interpret the song. And B.J. Thomas is one of the best song interpreters on the planet. And
I agree.
Glad to have you here today.
Thank you, Vince. And just since you're going to compliment me like that, I want to tell you that that last one of these things we did, that moment and that song you sang about your brother was the all-time moment of my career. I'll tell you, because I've got a brother. In fact, me and my brother were always mistaken as twins for a long time. In fact, Roy knows this because Roy thought my brother was me one night, and my brother went out with Roy in Nashville when you had that little sports car, that little red sports car. Uh-oh. And man, y'all really got drunk and had a really good time. And my brother said, "BJ, don't tell him, it was me. Just let him think it was you." And I said, "Okay, but I think I told you that before." But just what happened that day, and I don't want to get too emotional now because it's hard to sing after you've cried. You can sing while you're crying, but that was a great moment for me, and it was the most honest, soulful, sincere, meaningful thing I think I've ever seen, and I want to thank you for that because you were gone the next day when I did say something about it, and anyway, we kind of got diverted off there, didn't we? But it's an honor to be here for you, Bill. It's always been a great pleasure an honor to be able to say that if somebody says something about Bill Anderson, you say, "Yeah, well, Bill's my friend. I'm a friend of Bill's." And Bill is probably, if you've ever been interviewed by Bill, you know that he knows a lot more about you than you know about yourself. And it was funny because he was talking to me about the redhead, about my wife Gloria, and I went through the whole story. I say, oh yeah, we met and we fell in love, and that's a real interesting story. I have to tell you sometime. But and then I said, then we were together every day. We've been together every day since then. And he said, well, no, you separated twice. so he knew all about it. No, you know. But, you know, Gloria and I have been married for fixing to be 42 years. And I want to do this. I'm glad I'm not singing this to her, but I'm singing this to you, Bill. Your world was different from mine, don't you see? We could never be close, though we tried. We both reached for heavens, but ours weren't the same. That's what happens when two worlds collide. Your world was made up of things sweet and good. My world could never fit in, wish it could. Two hearts lie in shambles, and oh, how they cry. That's what happens when two worlds collide. That's what happens when two worlds collide. That's what happens when two worlds collide. Thank you. That was a good melody you composed. I wish I'd have got it right.
That's a great song. Doug,
Let me tell you a story. We were talking a while ago about having a song on the B-side of a record. One of BJ's biggest pop hits, or big pop hits early in his career, was a song called The Eyes of a New York Woman.
Yeah.
Do you remember what was on the other side of that record?
I May Never Get to Heaven.
A song Buddy
was on the
Killen
B-side,
wrote called I May Never Get to Heaven.
It was always
and you sang
really
the fire out of it.
The best side. And, you know, I recorded with Chips Moman in those days, and he always saw me as a country artist. Of course, my first hit was a country thing, and I always had that country part of me, and maybe it was the better part, but he always saw me as a country artist, and he played me that song, and it just killed me, you know, and I so would love singing that, and I'm gonna be singing it behind whoever's singing it today, because it's one of my favorite songs. Thank you, Bill.
Well, you cut a great record on it, man. Thank you.
Thank you, buddy.
Hey, Bill, was that
you wrote on me that time?
Was that the song that you and Roger wrote and y'all played it all night so you wouldn't forget it?
Yeah, when two worlds collide. Yeah, that was in the days way before cassette recorders and stuff, and we were riding from Nashville to San Antonio, in the back seat of Roger's old station wagon, and we wrote that song. in the middle of the night, and we were afraid we were going to forget it. So we sat up all night. He'd sing it once or twice, then I'd sing it, then he'd sing it, then I'd sing it. And we finally got into San Antonio early in the morning and called a disc jockey from a radio station. He came over with a recorder, and we finally put it down.
That's great.
One of the few songs that Roger seldom co-wrote. And as we were talking about co-writing a while ago, but I was so proud to have my name on that song with him. BJ sang it great, too.
What was that line Roger said? Somebody asked him why he didn't like the co-write. He said, did Picasso co-paint?
Yeah. He was right. I have a confession to BJ Thomas. I too had you as a Codaphone impersonation for a while. Just wanted to let you know. You were immortalized. I know real raindrops. I'm not gonna. Yeah. Oh yeah. Raindrops are falling on my head.
You have not been immortalized until Vince has had you on his Codaphone.
I wish I'd have saved him. No, I love that man's voice. You know, we were talking earlier about television, and you've had an equally as impressive career in television. You know, we haven't talked about it much today, but you were in one of the soap operas, is that right?
My whole life has been a soap opera. I was on One Life to Live on ABC for about 3 years.
Yeah. And then is that what got you the better sex?
No, actually,
Let me rephrase. That was a TV show that he hosted, The Better Sex.
No, I did The Better Sex first. That's the show I co-hosted with her.
We're not going to get off of this one, are we?
You started it.
That was first, and then came the
soap opera? Came the soap opera, yeah. Then came the Nashville Network.
Right.
I did a show on there called Fandango for about 6 years.
That's right. Had
Fun.
Edgar the jukebox.
Edgar the talking jukebox.
Blake Pickett. That's right. Y'all remember? I know you remember Blake Pickett, T. Graham Brown. T. Graham had a thing for Blake Pickett, I think. But no, and Ed Bruce is here today, and Ed has had I'm trying to make the correlation of some television work, acting. Another segue, yeah.
Doing good with those segues.
But Ed, thank you for being here. And
My pleasure. It's an honor.
Great writer and an incredible voice. If I had his voice, I'd just take mine out and build a hen's nest in it.
Great character. Great character.
Vince, I don't want to back up, but I've been sitting here wondering if this pertains to Roy, if Thumbs Carlile and Toes Clark ever did anything together, ever put any records together.
Yeah.
Did you ever play with Thumbs Carlile, Roy?
Yes, I did.
Toes Clark and Thumbs Carlile?
We had a trio trying to make a living out in Nevada.
You used to jam together?
Yeah, but we're going.
Toe jam.
Toe jam. I wish I'd have said that, and I will. But we were going up, I think, Reno or somewhere one night, and bless his heart, you really had to outfit Thumbs. He didn't have a guitar, a chord, any picks, and nothing. You had to supply that. And he said, I don't know if I'm going to be able to do it tonight or not. He said, I feel like I'm all fingers. That was his line. We were in playing the Golden Nugget in Vegas, and Thumbs' wife come through and was asking for a divorce. And it broke Thumbs' heart. He couldn't understand why she wanted a divorce. And we got to talking about it. I said, well, when's the last time you saw her? He said, it's been about 2 years. I said, have you called or anything, asked about her? He said, no. I figured if she needed anything, she'd call me. But he couldn't understand why, after 2 years, she wanted a divorce.
Do you feel like television had as big an impact on your career as anything else?
Well, I've always looked better on the radio, but television, yeah, in the early days, I did a syndicated show, started in 1965 through 1974 that Jan was on, Gene and Mary Lou and various. And that show, I tell you what, we had such a hard time back in those days. It's probably very hard for you and the younger people to realize what a struggle it was back then to get people to know who you were, to put a face with a sound and a name. You just had to keep going over and over and over. And television was the shortcut to that, as we all know today. And people they'd hear your records and then they'd see, oh, that's who I heard on the radio, you know. So in that standpoint, it really helped a lot, particularly in the early days.
Well, I would think that now is probably the least exposure country music gets on television. Right. As it has in a long, long time. And I'm curious, you know, just your thoughts, because for a long time there was, we had Hee Haw and everybody, you know, Porter had a show and Buck had a show, and there were always elements of country music on television and network television. And now the only network television we ever get is one of the award shows.
Well, what about the video channels? And they play country
Well,
music.
yeah, kind of. Sort of, but I'm honestly, you know, it's also they show a lot of movies, they show a lot of different shows, and it's not so much about country music per se, you know, like it used to be. You know, when you had the Nashville Network and CMT, and it was 24 hours a day. They had Ralph's show, you had your show, you had Jim Ed had a show on there, and it was nonstop where you could hear some live entertainment.
Well, I think when you look back at the history, I think those years that the Nashville Network was on, if you look back, look at all the artists. Look, they talk about the class of '89 or what all the artists that became such big stars when that exposure was there. I mean, that's when Garth and Clint Black and Alan Jackson and it just goes on. And I think you were maybe a little before that.
Yeah, I skipped class a lot. But, I was sort of in the class of '89.
But having that. But, you know, having that exposure, that constant exposure, number one, it did wonders for Nashville. It was there was not a New York network, there was never a Chicago or a Los Angeles network, but there was a Nashville network. And it really helped Nashville, and it helped our entire industry. And I wish it was still around.
Yeah. I just asked because I know that some people have had not only great recording careers, but also, like I was talking to Roy, had a great television career too. Ed Bruce is somebody that's here. He had a great career as an actor, you know, and that great face and that character, and has a great history.
Do we have to put that in the past tense?
No. Are you still doing some television stuff?
Oh yeah, when something comes up, sure.
Yeah. Do you obviously enjoy it, but did you see it have an impact on your career as well?
Yeah, but I've done so many different things. It's funny. I'll be somewhere and somebody will walk up to me and say, "Oh, you're Mr. Tennessee." Yeah. You know, they're thinking about the old commercials back in the late '70s that I did. And I said, "No, actually, Mr. Tennessee was a bodybuilder. I'm the Tennessean." You know, but yeah, it's opened doors. Of course, I came to Nashville in the first place to be a songwriter. And I had my first success back in the early 60s with Mr. Lubin there. Got me my first BMI award. And I moved up here within a couple of years. But I came up to hang around people like him, like Bill Anderson. He was among my heroes. And that's all I wanted to do at the time. Now, since then, everything else has been a spinoff from songwriting, and I've been blessed.
Well, I think that's the one thing that goes on in this room and on these shows that, as one of the younger guys, I am drawn to, is that sense of community that you all have, that sense of history, that sense of struggling, helping get started, doing shows, and the whole 9 yards. It's always inspiring to be around as one of the younger guys. When did you first run into Bill?
Me?
Yeah.
Oh, gosh. We're talking about the last century, you know. I don't remember. My first recollection of Bill is the TV show. Yeah. And after you moved to Nashville, the way it was then, it seemed to be more of a community. It was more community oriented then. And you'd pass famous people on the streets down within a few blocks of the row, and sometimes you run into somebody in the studio, you introduce yourself. But I'm curious about one thing. Vince, can you do me?
No, my voice won't go that long.
But Bill was one of the ones that when I first came to town, that I was familiar with because of the TV show, and one of the people I looked up to. And there were, Harlan and Hank and Willie and just my heroes. That's why I'm here.
Yeah. Would you sing one of Bill's great songs? Pretty please?
Yeah.
Good.
Man,
I've been sitting back there, and Larry Butler's on one side, Con Hunley's on the other, Lynn's sitting over here, and Gene Shepard sitting there, and everybody's singing a song. Somebody will get up here, and Con said, "Boy, that's a good song." Larry say the next one, they said, "Man, it's a great song." "Boy, what a song." "Well, yeah." Bill, I may need you to crawl up behind me on this and the words. Who's going to count it? I got back in town the day before I planned to. I smiled and said, I'll sure surprise my wife. I'll just head on home. I don't think I'll phone it way around. If I didn't know the cold hard facts of life. I passed a little wine shop on the corner. I pictured pink champagne by candlelight. I stopped the car right then, got out and hurried in, my mind not on the cold hard facts of life. A stranger stood there laughing by the counter. He said, I'll take 2 bottles of your best. Her husband's out of town, there's a party. And he winked as if to say, you know the rest. I left the shop 2 steps behind the stranger. From there to my house, his car stayed in sight. But it wasn't till he turned into my drive that I learned I was witnessing the cold, hard facts of life. I drove around the block till I was dizzy. Each time the noise grew louder from within. I saw our bottle sitting there beside me. I drank the 5th of courage, then walked in. Oh Lord, you should have seen their frantic faces. They screamed and cried, please put away that knife. I guess I'll go to hell Frizzell. But who taught who the cold hard facts of life? Who taught whom the cold hard facts of life? Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Wow.
Thank you.
That people have asked me over the years probably more about why I wrote that song or how or where it came from than anything I've ever written, and I have no idea. It just came out, but I had no idea when I was writing it how I was going to end it. I painted myself way into a corner with that song, and I think one of the greatest, I don't know what to call it, just gifts, I guess. God just dropped it down the line of who taught who the cold hard facts of life, because that's exactly what I wanted to say. Did I teach them that you're not supposed to cheat, or did they teach me you're not supposed to kill, you know? And I thank God every day for that line, and thank you very much for the great job you did.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Here's yours, Roy.
I've already used all of my ad libs.
Can I say just, when you said you painted yourself into a picture, into the corner, all the way through that song, I was sitting here thinking, what a picture you've painted. That's what you're the best at, is painting a picture that is so vivid. We don't need videos with songs like yours, okay? Thank you. That's right.
Thank you.
Porter did a good job with it, too.
I remember Porter, when he first got that song, we were all a bunch of us together somewhere, and he just saying, man, yeah, poor man, I mean, Halls, this is the one I've been looking for, hey, buddy, you know, and we just sat there and listened to him sing it over and over, just partying somewhere, but just still gives me cold chills when I hear those lines.
Larry?
What year was Corner of My Life?
About early 70s, 72, probably 71 or 72.
I'll never forget the first time I heard that on the radio. And what everybody's saying here is you paint pictures with words the eyes never see, but it's vividly clear, and that's true. When I heard the line in Corner of My Life, you're my water when I'm thirsty in the middle of the night. Wow. I wish I'd have thought of that.
There are songs that when you're driving along,
Yeah.
one comes on the radio, you just have to pull over.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's what he does.
Well,
That's what he does.
I remember that night because I was at your house with Becky at that time, and you called and said, I had to pull over because I'm writing this song, and it was the corner of my life.
Yeah, I wrote it in my car.
What a song.
Under the wheel of my car.
Corner of my
Thank
life,
you.
yeah.
Great song. And Vince, yours, and nobody answered, wasn't bad, pal.
I'm smart enough to go hang out with him. What do you, I don't even know why I'm going to bring this up, but only to introduce the next person really more than anything is, I know a lot of us in this room, we have so much history of really where this music started, you know? Okay, there is a God. Thank you so much.